Welcome to Clarity Quest Hub, your sanctuary for mental wellness, growth, and transformation.
Have you ever wondered what truly shapes the way you think, feel, and interact with others? Why some people are effortlessly outgoing, while others are painfully shy? Or why certain individuals seem naturally dependable, while others struggle with consistency? These characteristics stem from what we call personality. But what happens when these traits become so inflexible and maladaptive that they cause profound distress or dysfunction? Could this be a sign of something deeper, a personality disorder? Imagine this: traits we all have, like being a little introverted or impulsive, magnified to the point of disrupting everyday life. Could you spot the difference between a quirky personality and something more serious? The line might be thinner than you think. Interestingly, almost every trait found in personality disorders can appear, in less extreme forms, in everyday people. But what happens when multiple traits combine across different categories? What challenges do these individuals face, especially when personality disorders often coexist with other mental health conditions? How does this impact treatment outcomes? Stick around as we unravel the complexities of these enduring patterns of thinking and behavior. General features of personality disorders. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, DSM-5, personality disorders are not just quirks or bad habits. They are enduring patterns of inner experience and behavior that deviate significantly from cultural norms. But how do you recognize these patterns? Are they simply difficult personalities, or is there more beneath the surface? To qualify as a personality disorder, these patterns must meet stringent criteria. 1. Cognition. How does an individual perceive and interpret the world? Do their thoughts about themselves and others seem markedly off? 2. Affectivity. What about emotional responses? Are they unusually intense, unstable, or inappropriate for the situation? 3. Interpersonal functioning. How well do they interact and form relationships with others? Are there noticeable struggles? 4. Impulse control. Can they regulate their impulses, or do their behaviors seem erratic and self-destructive? Think about someone who struggles with these areas. How might this impact their work, relationships, or even day-to-day decision-making? A closer look. To make matters more complex, these patterns are pervasive and inflexible, affecting nearly every aspect of their personal and social life. They cause significant distress or dysfunction in vital areas like work and relationships. But here's the kicker: these patterns are long-standing, often tracing back to adolescence or early adulthood. Could this mean that what we perceive as a phase in someone's teenage years might actually be the first sign of a deeper issue? And if these patterns aren't caused by substances or a medical condition, what's driving them? Is it purely psychological, or are there hidden factors at play? Through this journey, we'll delve deeper into these enduring personality patterns, asking the hard questions: how do they form? Can they change? And what does treatment look like for someone whose very way of thinking and feeling is affected? The answers might surprise you. Epidemiology. How common are personality disorders, and what might this mean for the people around us? Surprisingly, data from the 2001 to 2002 National Epidemiologic Survey on Alcohol and Related Conditions reveal that approximately 15% of U.S. adults meet the criteria for at least one personality disorder. But here's a startling twist: in clinical settings, the prevalence soars above 50%. Why is this the case? Could it be that those most affected are more likely to seek help, or are these disorders more pervasive than we realize? Gender disposition. Does gender play a role in the types of personality disorders diagnosed? Absolutely. But the trends may surprise you. In men, disorders like paranoid, schizotypal, narcissistic, antisocial, and obsessive-compulsive personality disorders are more frequently observed. What might make these traits more prominent in men? Are cultural, genetic, or societal factors at play? In women, borderline, histrionic, and dependent personality disorders dominate the diagnoses. Why do these emotionally charged disorders appear more common in women? Is this a reflection of biology, environment, or perhaps diagnostic bias? One fascinating revelation is that genetics accounts for approximately 50% of the variance in normal personality traits. But what about extreme traits that spiral into dysfunction? Could these, too, be significantly tied to one's genetic makeup? Diagnosing personality disorders in different ages. Did you know personality disorders are rarely diagnosed in children? With one notable exception, antisocial personality disorder cannot be diagnosed in anyone under 18. Why the restriction? Could it be due to the fluidity of personality in adolescence, or does it reflect the seriousness of the antisocial label? Here's another chilling fact: individuals with personality disorders often struggle profoundly with their environment and relationships. Many have a higher likelihood of attempting self-harm, suicide, or even harming those around them. These struggles can lead to premature death. What drives such extreme outcomes, and is it possible to intervene before it's too late? Classifications of personality disorders. Understanding the classification of personality disorders offers a window into their complexity. These conditions are grouped into 3 clusters, each with unique characteristics. But what do these clusters reveal about the people affected? 1. Cluster A. These are the strange and eccentric personalities. Paranoid, schizoid, and schizotypal disorders fall into this category. Intriguingly, they are often evaluated within the schizophrenia spectrum. Does this mean these individuals teeter on the edge of psychosis, or are their behaviors less severe but still significant? 2. Cluster B. Here, the drama unfolds. These personalities are marked by being dramatically emotional and changeable. Antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorders are in this group. Could this be why individuals in this cluster often make headlines, for better or worse? 3. Cluster C. Finally, we have the anxious and fearful group. This includes avoidant, dependent, and obsessive-compulsive personality disorders, OCPD. What underlying fears drive these behaviors, and how do they differ from ordinary anxiety or perfectionism? As we explore these classifications further, one question looms large: are these clusters simply convenient labels, or do they reflect deeper truths about human behavior? Stay with us as we unravel the mysteries of personality disorders and their far-reaching impact. Cluster A personality disorders. Cluster A is home to the odd and eccentric personalities, where behaviors often leave others bewildered. But what drives these peculiar traits? Are these individuals merely misunderstood, or do their behaviors hint at deeper psychological complexities? Let's explore the enigmatic world of paranoid, schizoid, and schizotypal personality disorders. Paranoid personality disorder. Imagine living in a constant state of suspicion, believing that others are out to harm or deceive you. For individuals with paranoid personality disorder, this isn't imagination, it's their daily reality. But where does this pervasive distrust stem from? Signs include suspecting, without solid evidence, that others are exploiting or deceiving them. Reluctantly confiding in anyone, fearing their words will be twisted or weaponized. Reading hidden threats into harmless comments or gestures. How might this chronic suspicion affect relationships? And what happens when such behavior spirals into holding lifelong grudges or even doubting a partner's fidelity without cause? Pathology and causes. Interestingly, genetics might play a role, hinting at an inherited tendency toward mistrust. Yet, environmental factors, like harsh parental criticism, seem equally significant. Is this a case of nature versus nurture, or both? Epidemiology and comorbidities. This disorder affects 0.5% to 2.5% of the population, more commonly in men. But here's a concerning twist: individuals with paranoid personality disorder are more likely to suffer from major depressive disorder, agoraphobia, and substance use disorders. Could this be a result of their chronic mistrust and isolation? Schizoid personality disorder. What happens when someone detaches completely from relationships and prefers life in solitude? Enter schizoid personality disorder, a condition marked by an unusual indifference to social connections and emotions. Key features include avoiding close relationships, even with family. Finding joy in almost no activities, from social events to personal hobbies. Being indifferent to praise or criticism, maintaining emotional coldness that leaves others baffled. What makes individuals with schizoid personality disorder so resistant to connection? Could it be a defense mechanism, or is their internal world simply different from others? Pathology and causes. This disorder has genetic ties to introversion and a reduced ability to feel positive emotions. Unlike paranoid personality disorder, there's no strong link to schizophrenia, but what might that suggest about its origins? Epidemiology and comorbidities. Though rare, affecting less than 1% of the population, this condition often coexists with avoidant and schizotypal personality disorders. Treatment options are limited, raising the question, how can therapists bridge the gap with someone who desires no connection? Schizotypal personality disorder. Now imagine a world where reality feels slightly off, a place where magical thinking and eccentric behavior dominate. Schizotypal personality disorder is more than just quirkiness, it's a profound challenge to form close relationships. Core characteristics include ideas of reference, believing unrelated events are directly tied to them. Odd beliefs, like clairvoyance or a sixth sense. Perceptual distortions, such as strange bodily sensations or illusions. Unusual speech patterns and behavior that can alienate others. How do these traits differ from the symptoms of schizophrenia? And when does odd thinking cross into dangerous delusion? Pathology and causes. This disorder is strongly linked to genetics, often running parallel to schizophrenia. Evidence of central nervous system dysfunction adds another layer of complexity. Could this connection explain why 10 to 20% of individuals with schizotypal personality disorder eventually develop schizophrenia? Epidemiology and comorbidities. Affecting about 3% of the population, more often men than women, schizotypal personality disorder frequently coexists with avoidant, schizoid, and borderline personality disorders. Treatment challenges. Pharmaceuticals and psychotherapy offer some hope, but is it enough to help someone navigate the blurred lines between reality and perception? The mystery of Cluster A. As we examine these disorders, one question remains: how much of this behavior is shaped by genetics, and how much by the environment? Could early intervention make a difference, or are these patterns too deeply rooted to change? Each diagnosis brings us closer to understanding the human mind's most eccentric corners. But one thing is clear: this is only the beginning of the story. Cluster B personality disorders, the dramatic, emotional, and erratic. Cluster B disorders are among the most fascinating, and challenging, personality types encountered in both clinical and forensic settings. These individuals often demand attention, resources, and patience, leaving practitioners and observers alike wondering, why do they behave this way? Could their dramatic and erratic traits hold deeper clues to understanding human nature? Let's delve into the captivating and tumultuous world of antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorders. Antisocial personality disorder, the rule breaker. What makes someone disregard the rights of others, act impulsively, and lie without remorse? For individuals with antisocial personality disorder, this pattern often begins in adolescence and wreaks havoc well into adulthood. Core features include chronic rule breaking, think repeated arrests or deceit for personal gain. Aggression, frequent physical altercations and irritability. Recklessness, danger to themselves and others through impulsive, high-risk behaviors. But what shapes this dangerous personality? Is it biology, upbringing, or both? Etiology and pathology. Research suggests that genetics play a crucial role, low monoamine oxidase A activity combined with childhood maltreatment significantly increases the risk of violent behavior. Even the brain structure offers hints. A smaller prefrontal cortex and amygdala are linked to reduced empathy and impulse control. Challenges in diagnosis. Antisocial traits often overlap with borderline and histrionic personality disorders, particularly in women. Epidemiological data shows it affects 3 to 6% of men and about 1% of women. Why such a stark gender difference? Treatment. Sadly, this disorder is notoriously difficult to treat. Therapy often fails, and behavioral changes are rare, though antisocial tendencies may decline after age 40. Could incarceration truly be the only viable solution? Borderline personality disorder, the emotional storm. Now imagine a life marked by emotional instability, impulsivity, and chronic feelings of emptiness. Borderline personality disorder can feel like living in a storm, one where relationships, self-image, and emotions change as unpredictably as the weather. Key symptoms include frantic efforts to avoid abandonment, even if it's imagined. Intense and unstable relationships swinging between idealization and devaluation. Dangerous impulsivity, from reckless driving to substance abuse. Recurrent self-harm and suicidal behaviors. Origins and underpinnings. Trauma leaves a lasting imprint. Childhood abuse, neglect, or abandonment often sets the stage for borderline personality disorder. Neurologically, individuals show reduced volumes in the hippocampus and amygdala, areas crucial for emotional regulation and memory. Why the confusion in diagnosis? Because mood disorders frequently coexist, borderline personality disorder is often misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder. However, borderline personality disorder's chronic emotional instability distinguishes it from bipolar's episodic mood swings. Treatment and hope. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, a specialized therapy combining mindfulness with cognitive behavioral techniques, offers a lifeline. But the journey is long and fraught with setbacks. Can individuals with borderline personality disorder find lasting stability and peace? Histrionic personality disorder, the performer. Is it just attention-seeking or something deeper? For individuals with histrionic personality disorder, the need to be the center of attention dominates their lives, often expressed through exaggerated emotions and provocative behavior. Hallmarks of the disorder. A flair for dramatics, think over-the-top emotional expressions that seem shallow or insincere. Inappropriate sexual behavior, using seduction to maintain attention. An obsession with appearance, constantly dressing to impress or attract. Origins of the drama. Genetics and upbringing intertwine here. Families may unintentionally reinforce attention-seeking behaviors, while hyperactive nervous systems amplify emotional responses. Could society's emphasis on external validation also play a role? Challenges in diagnosis. Cultural biases often complicate the diagnosis. For instance, women may be labeled as histrionic for displaying stereotypically feminine traits, while men might express similar behaviors through exaggerated masculinity. Treatment approaches. Therapy focuses on helping individuals develop deeper emotional connections and reduce dependency on external validation. But can they learn to thrive without the spotlight? Narcissistic personality disorder, the grandiose visionary. What drives someone to believe they are destined for greatness, to crave admiration, and to lack empathy? For those with narcissistic personality disorder, their world revolves around maintaining a sense of superiority and control. Defining features include a grandiose sense of self-importance, often exaggerating achievements. Preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, or beauty. Exploitation of others to achieve personal goals. A lack of empathy, often masking envy or arrogance. Roots of narcissism. Western culture's emphasis on individualism and success may exacerbate narcissistic traits. Within families, neglect or over-idealization during childhood often plants the seeds. But what happens when external achievements fail to sustain internal self-esteem? The diagnostic puzzle. While some individuals with narcissistic personality disorder appear high-functioning, their interpersonal relationships often reveal deep dysfunction. The overlap with antisocial traits can make diagnosis even trickier. Treatment possibilities. Many seek therapy only after their grandiose self-image clashes with reality, perhaps through personal or professional setbacks. Psychodynamic therapy can help, but progress is slow. Will these individuals ever learn to value themselves beyond their accomplishments? Cluster B, a challenge to treat, an opportunity to understand. Cluster B disorders present a kaleidoscope of challenges for individuals, their families, and the professionals who treat them. What drives the drama, the recklessness, and the emotional extremes? And more importantly, can understanding the root causes unlock new possibilities for treatment and healing? As we unravel the complexities of these personalities, we are left with more questions than answers, but perhaps that is the first step toward deeper insight. Cluster C personality disorders, the anxious and fearful. Imagine a life dominated by constant self-doubt, a fear of rejection, or a relentless need for control. Cluster C personality disorders, avoidant, dependent, and obsessive-compulsive, capture the struggles of those trapped in cycles of anxiety and fear. But what drives these patterns? Are they shaped by early experiences, genetic predispositions, or societal pressures? Let us explore the intricacies of these disorders and uncover their mysteries. Avoidant personality disorder, the isolated observer. What would you do if every social interaction felt like a potential landmine of criticism or rejection? For individuals with avoidant personality disorder, this fear shapes every aspect of their lives, keeping them in a painful cycle of avoidance and longing for connection. Core symptoms. Avoidance of social and professional interactions due to fear of rejection. Reluctance to open up in relationships, fearing ridicule or shame. Viewing oneself as inferior, socially inept, or unappealing. This condition often begs the question, how much of this avoidance is nature, and how much is nurture? Etiology and pathology. Avoidant personality disorder may arise from a combination of genetics and environment. Traits like shyness and introversion often run in families. Overprotective or hypercritical parenting can further instill a fear of judgment. On a physiological level, heightened activity in the amygdala, our brain's fear center, amplifies their anxiety, making even simple social interactions overwhelming. A disorder overlapping with social phobia. Avoidant personality disorder shares significant similarities with social phobia, yet it remains distinct due to its pervasive nature. Could these blurred lines lead to underdiagnosis? Treatment. Behavioral therapy focusing on anxiety reduction techniques, alongside medication, can help individuals step out of their comfort zones. But the question lingers, can they ever truly overcome the fear of rejection? Dependent personality disorder, the fear of being alone. What happens when a person's need for care and reassurance becomes all-consuming? Dependent personality disorder traps individuals in a cycle of clinging, submissiveness, and an overwhelming fear of abandonment. Defining characteristics. Difficulty making decisions without excessive advice. An inability to assert disagreement due to fear of losing support. Urgently seeking new relationships when one ends, fearing self-reliance. This relentless dependence raises a thought-provoking question: are they shaped by their upbringing, or is dependence a deeper personality trait? Origins of dependency. Parents who are overly controlling or smothering may stifle their child's autonomy, leading to feelings of helplessness. This insecure attachment style perpetuates a fear of abandonment and a belief that one cannot function independently. Differential diagnosis. While dependent behaviors may arise in those with chronic illnesses or other psychiatric conditions, the key to diagnosis is identifying these traits early, by late childhood or adolescence. Challenges in treatment. Ironically, individuals with dependent personality disorder may become overly dependent on their therapist, complicating the therapeutic process. Group therapy can be particularly effective, helping patients build confidence and reduce reliance on singular relationships. But can they ever break free from their deep-seated fear of loneliness? Obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, the relentless perfectionist. Imagine being so fixated on perfection that you lose sight of what truly matters. For those with obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, OCPD, the need for control dominates every decision, often at the expense of flexibility, efficiency, and joy. But where does the line between meticulousness and pathology lie? Hallmarks of OCPD. An obsession with order, rules, and schedules, leading to inefficiency. Perfectionism so extreme that projects remain incomplete. Reluctance to delegate tasks unless others follow exact instructions. The origins of obsession. Is OCPD simply an extreme version of conscientiousness? Heritability plays a significant role, while psychodynamic theories suggest early experiences of strict discipline may contribute. These individuals often live in fear of losing control, but at what cost? Key differences from OCD. Though similar in name, OCPD lacks the intrusive obsessions and compulsive rituals of OCD. While some individuals may have both disorders, most do not. This distinction raises a compelling question: how many people remain undiagnosed because their symptoms appear functional? Treatment options. Cognitive behavioral and psychodynamic therapies are the mainstay treatments for OCPD. Medications, however, typically address co-occurring conditions rather than the personality disorder itself. Can therapy help these individuals loosen their rigid grip on life and embrace spontaneity? Cluster C, a journey toward balance. The anxious and fearful disorders of Cluster C represent a spectrum of struggles with control, connection, and self-worth. What unites these disorders is their profound impact on daily life and relationships, yet each is marked by unique challenges and origins. As research continues to unravel the biological and environmental underpinnings of these conditions, one question remains: how can we empower these individuals to break free from the chains of fear and reclaim their lives? General consequences of personality disorders, a ripple effect on lives. Have you ever wondered how much a personality disorder shapes not just the individual but also the world around them? These disorders, often forming during adolescence or early adulthood, leave a lasting imprint on relationships, careers, and even societal dynamics. But why do some personality disorders emerge earlier in life, while others become apparent only in middle age? And how do these patterns ripple outward, affecting loved ones, colleagues, and entire communities? Timing and development. When personality disorders take hold. The timing of a personality disorder's emergence is as telling as the disorder itself. Consider borderline personality disorder, which typically peaks during adolescence and early adulthood, potentially softening by mid-adulthood. Compare this with narcissistic personality disorder, often lying dormant until middle age, when a sense of missed opportunities or personal limitations triggers its full expression. What might this tell us about the interplay between life stages and personality pathology? These disorders strike at a critical time when individuals are developing relationship skills, pursuing education, and building their careers. Instead of creating a foundation for future success, individuals with personality disorders may rely on maladaptive behaviors, shaping a trajectory fraught with challenges. Can they ever recover the opportunities lost during these formative years? A shadow of comorbidities, the complex web of accompanying disorders. Personality disorders rarely walk alone. They often travel with a history of alcohol abuse, drug addiction, or mental health conditions such as generalized anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, or eating disorders. Suicidal thoughts or attempts are heartbreakingly common, adding another layer of urgency to understanding and addressing these conditions. Did you know that up to half of prisoners meet the criteria for antisocial personality disorder? Their associated behaviors, substance abuse, violence, and vagrancy, frequently lead to criminal acts, compounding personal struggles with societal consequences. This raises a haunting question: if these conditions had been recognized and treated earlier, how many lives might have followed a different path? The social fallout, when lives collide with dysfunction. Personality disorders are not isolated struggles, they reverberate outward, affecting families, workplaces, and society at large. Common social consequences include spousal violence. How often does maladaptive behavior lead to irreparable harm in intimate relationships? Child maltreatment. What is the toll on children raised by individuals with unchecked disorders? Workplace challenges. Poor performance, absenteeism, or conflicts frequently plague careers. Self-destructive behaviors. Suicide and gambling often compound the personal cost of these disorders. At the heart of these consequences lies a profound difficulty: the rigidity of individuals with personality disorders. Their inflexible patterns force others to adapt to them, creating strained relationships. What happens when loved ones or colleagues refuse to adjust? The cycle of frustration, anger, and maladaptive persistence deepens, locking all involved in a destructive loop. The emotional toll. How personality disorders make others feel. Encountering someone with a personality disorder can evoke a storm of emotions: anger, frustration, helplessness, even manipulation. These reactions often stem from the disorder's persistent interpersonal dysfunction, which can make others feel trapped in an unyielding dynamic. How, then, can professionals remain objective in the face of such challenging interactions? One key lies in taking a step back, creating emotional distance, and consulting with a colleague or psychiatric expert. Understanding the root of these behaviors transforms frustration into empathy, paving the way for more effective interventions. Breaking the cycle. Hope and understanding. In summary, personality disorders are far more than individual struggles. They are pervasive patterns that disrupt lives, relationships, and societies. Recognizing their emotional and social impact is the first step toward breaking the cycle. But the ultimate question remains: can these deeply ingrained patterns ever be fully untangled, or is managing the consequences the best we can hope for? As we continue to study and understand these complex conditions, the answer may lie not in changing the past but in building a more compassionate future for those affected.